it's wonderful to be here with you today, Keaton. I've been really, really looking forward to this conversation. You are, of course, a hugely successful serial entrepreneur, the millionaire mindset mentor, TV star of the Diesel Brothers show, and your Limitless Society Club has been a spectacular success. I think over 1,000 members in less than a year, and produced already 8 millionaires, and I'm sure counting. You've launched and scaled 30 businesses, reaching 8 figures, and you've co-authored a book on a delicate and difficult topic, the hardest thing about divorce, going to war with yourself. Your goal, which I quote, is to create a society where people no longer believe in any limits and help others grow in their dreams, goals, and aspirations. I think that's fantastic. So today we're here to talk about what it takes to be a successful entrepreneur, brand builder, networker, leader, and something you stress, a human being too. Successful in the business sense and a human being. So I'm hoping you're going to share your wisdom, your tips, your lessons with the audience. And welcome to the show, Keaton.
Thank you. I really, really appreciate it. And I am honored to be on your show.
Fantastic, fantastic. So let's just warm ourselves up with some easy questions. And there are no trick questions, I promise. I'm probably too scared anyway, even though we're across the Atlantic from each other. You have, as you say, a very big and diverse portfolio of businesses. I'm curious as to where the ideas come for these businesses.
You know, it's funny. When I first started, when I really, really got into this, I was 21 years old and I realized I could not work for anybody. In fact, I couldn't even finish school because I couldn't jump through hoops. And I think most entrepreneurs probably agree that school is not the best route when you know you're an entrepreneur. But what I did really, really quickly is I realized that when I saw a need anywhere, any need, I knew that there was a place to make money. Anytime that you can fulfill any type of need, you can make money. And, you know, just as a side note to that, when you fulfill a need of rich people, you make a lot more money. That's kind of the whole trick to the trade here. But realistically, when I started out, because I have ADHD, I always was looking for needs in the world. And when I saw one, I would throw together, just kind of slap together a business idea, and then I would run with it. One of the things that I'm very, very, I struggle with a lot is I'm not great at preparation and business proposals and business planning. I'm not great at that. What I am really
you've
good
never
at.
written a business plan. I've heard you've never written a business plan, you said in one of your videos.
To this day, I have never written a business plan. Now, I am going to say that's not the best route to go. Most people need to have an analyzed, focused, and detailed list of how their business is going to function and roll. If you're not stupid like I was, you will do a business plan. But for me, I learned really quickly that the one thing I was good at is I was good at doing. And then I was really good at making mistakes. And then I was good at fixing the mistakes by continuing down the path. And so for me, I learned really quickly, just go out and do and don't ever stop. And that got me into crazy positions with all kinds of businesses.
That's fantastic. You're immersed in it. You're looking for needs. You keep iterating, changing, learning as you go, as opposed to some entrepreneurs, well, not the successful ones. Sometimes they sort of start something off and get a bit bored and then move on, which often happens.
Well, you know, the thing that I've seen the most, and I teach a lot of entrepreneurs, the thing that I see the very most in a successful and a not successful entrepreneur, the difference is the do. It's the ask. It's the task at hand. Most people will analyze until they are paralyzed. And most people will never really do what they seek or say they're going to do. They'll just look at the numbers and the process and the proposal and the plan, but they will never actually take that first step and do. And so for me, I know there's a good balance. You should always analyze, and then you should make decisions, and then you should do. But for me, I did it backwards. I just did things, and sometimes it worked out great, and sometimes I made mistakes, and then I would come right back to the mistake and I would fix it and continue to go.
Love the energy, love the drive. You've scaled a large number of those businesses successfully. Again, scaling or, scaling can be really hard. What do you put down your success to in scaling those businesses?
I think the number one piece to truthfully scaling a business is actually in that word, being truthful. A lot of people struggle with being honest with themselves. And if you can't be honest with yourself, you can't be honest with your business. Most people like to sit as the head and the entrepreneur and the CEO and tell the whole entire world how they know how it should be run and that they're going to do it their way. But a truthful man will look in the mirror of himself and his business. He'll see the problems, he'll address them, and then he'll fix those problems. But it first starts with being truthful with oneself. And then the second piece is after you've become truthful and you see the problems, you must learn how to pivot. And I would say the common
Mm.
denominator to someone who scales a business successfully is someone who learns how to pivot always.
Fantastic. You have a pretty diverse portfolio. I mean, I've seen everything from supplements to marketing to health to cookies. A nice contrast there.
Yeah.
How important are synergies, i.e., the relationships between the businesses, or do you see them as standalone entities and businesses in their own right?
Man, that is a wonderful question. That might be the best question I've been asked for a really long time. I do not see any kind of synergy in anything I'm doing because I believe that when you brand yourself one thing, you really close down the demographic of all the things you can do in the
Mm.
world. The truth is I mean, I've had a plastic surgery clinic, I've had a dental office, I've had a supplement company, a marketing company, a cookie company. I'm actually launching a popsicle company in the next few weeks. I,
Wow.
I mean, I'm all over the board, and none of those companies have anything to do with one another except the principles to start and build and scale a business are all fairly similar. That may be the
Mm.
only thing that they're close together on.
It's like you have a way, you have a method, you have a mindset which you apply to
Absolutely,
each of them, but they're
absolutely.
separate. How do you, given the size and the scale, the scale and the diversity of that portfolio, how do you make sure that you're giving the right amount of attention to each of the businesses? Because there'll be at different stages of development, perhaps different levels of success. How do you figure out when to dive into one, step back from it? How do you do that?
So I have a really simple methodology now. Before I was so scatterbrained and ADHD that I struggled to give the right amount of attention. This took me a long time to kind of master. But what I've realized is I start a company, I put all of my time and energy into it and I get to where the infrastructure of the company can essentially bear for me as the entrepreneur to step away. I fill
Mm.
in the infrastructure with the people that need to be placed in there. Every one of my companies have a CEO. Even Limitless Society has a CEO. Every
Right.
role needs to be placed and needs to be trained and then needs to be properly equipped to do that role. And until that time, you need to be all in on your business. And it may take a year, it might take 2 years, it could take 10 years. But I've learned in my methodology, I never ever leave anything or back off or let off the throttle until that business is set up, the infrastructure set up, and the people in the roles have been set up and structured correctly so that I can slowly take my time back and I can give the company the ability to become a machine and build itself.
I love that clarity. Really structured, very methodical. What about if you like taking it up a level and thinking about your overall portfolio and your overall brand? How far ahead are you looking in terms of where you want to be and what that means for you?
I'm 35 years old, and for probably the first time in my life, I'm beginning to look at things in about a 5 year period. I've always looked in a year period. I've always looked
Mm.
in something and I've said, and I know this may not be the best advice, but it's going to be my advice I give either way. I've always looked at things and said, if it doesn't make me money, I'm not going to do it. Now, in the beginning, I was 21 years old. When I started companies, my whole goal was to be a millionaire by the time I was 30. And so I had to do businesses that would bring me money. I couldn't do businesses that would have a wonderful exit strategy. And so to
Mm.
this day, I've never built a business that's done more than $15 million. I haven't. Now, I've built 35 businesses that have done that, but nothing
Mm.
over that because I've placed in front of me the need and the necessity for every business that I build to essentially produce cash flowing energy. I have to be
Fantastic.
able to have cash. Now, I'm 35. I've made quite a bit of money and I've built a lot of businesses. And for the first time, I'm looking now at about 5 years out. One of the businesses that I actually bought was called Dirty Dough. I bought
Yes.
into ownership with a really good friend of mine, Bennett Maxwell. He's the original starter, or the person that owns the company. And this has been, a pretty expensive buy-in, and I'm not looking to make any money from this one. I'm looking for the exit in 5 years, and for the first time in my life, this will be kind of that game plan. So for me, all the way up until this point in my life, if it doesn't make money, it doesn't make sense, and I've lived and died by that.
Mm, gosh. How does it feel taking that longer perspective?
Um, it feels great. It feels like I'm beginning to finally mature, and I'm not 21 anymore. Um,
Very
I
good.
think
Very good.
it's a great and beautiful balance that you should find in your life as you build your business. I train and mentor a lot of entrepreneurs that are on one or two ends of that spectrum, where all they're doing is making tons of cash and they're not looking at the longevity and the exit of their company. And then I have others who are living paycheck to paycheck in a multi-million dollar company because they're not taking any cash and they're looking at the exit strategy of the company. And I
Yes.
think
Yes.
in all of the people that I've seen, there has to be a beautiful balance. Now, it can be lean to one side or the other, but there does need to be balance. You should never be working 2 or 3 years in a business and not seeing some type of cash flow to sustain you as an entrepreneur. But the majority of it, if you really want to make real money, you need to reinvest and you need to look at the 5, 10 year plan.
Everything you said to now it shows a lot of clarity of thought and discipline, and you've referred that in a number of your TikTok videos, YouTube videos, which I recommend everyone watching, listening. There, fun and inspirational and very informative. That's a rare combination. Where does that discipline that you've just shown us and shown us in your business, where does it come from? The discipline.
That may be the age old question. Where do I find discipline? I actually teach two different types of styles of teaching in Limitless Society. Number one is personal development, and then number two is business development. And
Mm.
I think that personal development is a very, very big piece to any kind of success in a business. You can't be, for lack of a better word, a shithead and grow a great and wonderful business. You can't do that. You need to ultimately be a good person and have standards and discipline and all those things. But this is why I bring that up. I think when someone, man or woman, finally figures out what their why is,
Mm.
when they find their why and it touches them to their very core, it changes how they think and how they feel and what they do and what they desire. When you find your why, it is so much easier to stick discipline directly to your why. And when discipline is not enough, you can go all the way back to the beginning and say, I'm doing this because of my why, and I will continue to do it because of my why. And so, to even answer that question in a longer way, my why is my children and my wife. And as I build these businesses and as I make this money and as I go to the gym and I work out and I become healthier, it's all tied to my why, which allows me to continue down the path of discipline. And the reason why this question I think is so important, because I genuinely believe the number one common denominator for successful people in any right is discipline.
Mm. I hear you. Because you'll be having to make lots of choices literally every hour, every day about where you spend your time, where you focus your attention professionally in your business and at home. And I see some entrepreneurs get that right. Whatever right means is obviously a very personal question. Others frankly struggle. They work all hours or they dip in and out and so on. How do you make the right choices so you can, if you like, keep things not in balance? I don't really believe in balance, but you nurture your family. That's clearly very important to you. You keep on having fun and doing wacky helicopter rides and doing lots of going around your lovely house. How do you make those hard choices about where to focus your time?
This is actually a principle that I've focused a lot of my studies on in the last few weeks. And I believe in balance, but it's a different type of balance. For example, we all know, we should know, the most important things to us are our family, our spouse, and our children. but we spend the majority of our time on our business, which is warranted, and that's totally okay. I don't believe in balance of saying, well, I'm going to give 6 hours to my family and 6 hours to my business. That's not balance. I'll tell you what balance is. Balance is putting the same amount of energy that you put into your business into the time you have with your children and your spouse. So, for
Ah, I see.
example, for
Yeah.
me, I spend about 12 to 14 hours a day working on my businesses. Currently, I have 6 companies that I own and run. I put in all of my energy. I don't half ass. I don't come in and say I'm tired or I'm sick or focus on my phone or do other things. I work. And then I
Yes.
give my family and my spouse about 2 hours a day. They get my uninterrupted time of 2 hours. And see, I work at home, so I have my office at home. I don't spend a lot of time uninterrupted with business or uninterrupted with my family. I take both of my energies and I put the equal amount into the time that's allotted. So again, there is balance, but it's 14 hours in the business and 2 hours
Yes.
with my family. And I can tell you this one thing, and I've learned this over the years. A wife will absolutely adore you if you will give her 1 to 2 hours of uninterrupted time every single day. They don't need it. They don't need a ton of time. They don't need a ton of energy. But if you will give a good, ample, honest amount of energy into the time you have with them, they don't need a lot. And that's why you can continue to be successful in your business in the 12 to 14 hours that you're working.
Such wisdom. I'm now reflecting on my own life and wondering tonight, as I say this, how I'm going to change that. That's such clarity again. Let's just continue the theme of choices,
Yeah.
because of your brand, your success, particularly, and obviously your brand commercially, and obviously on media brand as well. I imagine you'll be inundated with offers and opportunities. How do you make the right choices beyond the making money one? That's clear. And how do you make the right choices of who to spend time with, who to associate yourself with, what partners, what principles do you use to guide wise decisions about who to work with?
I'm going to give you two answers if I can on this one. The first answer is a methodical answer, and that is I look at the person that essentially is offering whatever they're offering on the table. I look at their attributes, I look at their personal life, I look at their previous history. I look at the type of person that they are. I look at their relationships. I look at everything that is a sum total of them. Are they honest in their dealings? Are they a hard worker? Are they, and I know this one's going to
Mm.
sound very difficult, but are they out of shape? A man who's out of shape is not someone I want to do business with. If you cannot take care of the most important thing, you are definitely not going to take care of the other things in your life. I see people all the time who are fairly successful who are fat and out of shape, and I have no desire to do business with them. I just
Mm.
don't. The way you do one thing is the way you do all things. So if you don't take care of your health and you don't take care of your family, you're not going to take care of the business that we put in together. So I methodically go through attributes and the life of those who I partner with. I always look at that as I partner. That would be my first answer. My second
Mm.
answer is I spend a lot of time in prayer. I'm a very, very God fearing man. I believe 100% in prayer. And for me, I do spend a lot of time with God, and I always ask. He may or may not answer me, but I do spend time in that arena saying, hey, is this the move that I should make after I've already done my work of the methodical work of saying, does this man hold attributes that I would like to have in a partner?
So comprehensive, diligent, thoughtful, and reflective for somebody who's on. You're working on again the balance. You are mastering paradoxes, which I think is fantastic. Some people say, "Oh, I'm always on. I don't get to have time for reflection, or I focus on one thing." You're looking at a comprehensive picture of thing. So that's when you have inbound, if you like, inbound requests. When you're then looking to reach out to people, the people you want to spend time with, influence, potentially work with. You've clearly done that very successfully, sometimes paid, sometimes for free. The likes of the Tony Robbins of the world. What do you give to them in order for them to quite quickly think, hey, this is a decent person to work with, spend time with?
So two things there. I firmly believe in energy. I believe that
Mm,
the
mm,
energy you put off, people feel. If you're a good
mm.
person and you have good desires and you seek nothing but greatness and you have an abundant mindset, your energy always exudes in
Yeah.
confidence. When you walk into a room and you have that energy, people want to be around that energy. It's
Yes.
really a simple idea. But the second part to that is you have to learn how to network. And the only way, everybody thinks that networking is shaking hands and talking to people. It's not. It's showing people that you bring things to the table and can offer something of value, and doing it in a setting of networking, quote unquote.
Yes.
I can
Yes.
walk into a room and I can talk to 100 people. If I do it with zero confidence and I bring nothing to the table, I'm going to walk back out of that room and I will never talk to another one of those souls again. But if I walk in with wonderful energy, I shake hands and I show them what I can bring to the table, they always see my value, and then we mutually want to do something. I would say in the last 7 years, I have not gone to anybody and said, "Hey, this is what I'm interested in doing." I've been lucky and blessed enough to have everybody comes to me. I get business opportunities about 10 times a week. But before I got to this point in my life, I spent a lot of time cultivating in myself value
Yes.
that I could bring to the table. So when I networked with people, they saw that they would get something and I would get something, and it would be mutually benefited. And then as we created a relationship around mutual benefit, they saw that I would always uphold and go far past what they ever expected in our relationship. And so, I've created wonderful relationships with people like Ed Milet and Andy Frizella and Bradley. I mean, just absolute wonderful relationships. And it's because I never ask for anything. I only offer. I bring to the table things that most people will never even think about bringing, because everybody wants to ask. They never want to show up and give. And in doing that,
Yes.
I've created these wonderful relationships with people that they want to support me. They're in and they want to come help.
It's so positively infectious. It's the energy, the intent, the integrity, and that mutual value. I think a lot of people talk about those things, but often you can see it, and I've sensed it in some business dealings. They talk a good game, but
Yeah.
actually, it's all about them, and you can sniff it. You can sense it very quickly, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you're a person who's clearly in the public eye. You have a very big media profile, huge following on lots of platforms. How do you manage that yourself in terms of your own sanity, your own mental health? How do you deal with it?
When I was a young kid, I met one of my heroes. He was a very famous, a celebrity. And he was just absolutely horrific to meet. They always say don't meet your heroes, and I was
Mm,
definitely one of those people that would say don't meet your heroes. And I remember growing up thinking, if I ever became crazy famous, if I ever got to where I was in the public eye, that I would always do my best to give every single person the opportunity to at least have some type of positive interaction with me. And when I made that commitment, I had no idea what I was signing myself up for. I get about 1,000 messages a day on social medias. I
wow.
answer every single message every single day. I make sure that in
Yeah.
all the things I'm doing, every interaction I can possibly have with people will be positive. Now, that's not to say I don't have haters, because I do have a lot of haters. And I deal with those, the way that you should. But ultimately, when someone comes to me, as I came to somebody when I was younger, I want to have positive interactions with them. So I'm
Mm.
answering every one of my social media messages. I'm talking with people. I'm spending time committed to never allowing someone to feel the way I felt when I met someone that was in the public eye.
That's a great guiding principle. So you're, as you say, you're showing there you are fully in. You're, as we say, sleeves rolled up, as we say here, really getting immersed in the business. And but how do you continue to, if you like, leverage your time? You've talked about the support you put in place for your businesses, i.e., each one over a period of time as a CEO. Um, what support do you have around you? I'm not looking for every fine detail, but some entrepreneurs hold it all themselves. It's like them, and then there's sort of a broader network. Do you have a small, tight team around you that you work with, support with, or do you do most of it yourself?
So I've learned that the small things really matter, and I don't have time for the small things. So I hire people to do the small things. So
Mm,
I personally, I have three assistants right now, and all three of those assistants do the smallest things in the world that don't. They seem inconsequential, but they always get them done. You know, I have somebody that makes my bed. I have somebody who does just my schedule. I have somebody who cleans my driveway. I have somebody who takes my phone calls. I have somebody who pays all my bills and who answers all my emails. All the small things that need to get done, that are important to be done, that I don't have time for, I pay people to do it. And rightfully so, it's not expensive to hire assistants to do those things. And then what that does is it allows me the time to do what I do best, which is to create and paint the greatest pictures and then inspire something much greater than answering an email or taking a phone call or any of those things that are so time consuming. I mean, even making your bed in the morning, whatever it is that needs to be done and is important to get done, I usually hire out to have people do. So the majority of my day is 100% exactly what I want to be doing, and everything else gets done because I hire it out to get done.
really ruthlessly in an incredibly positive way about focusing on where you can play your strengths and where do the things you do best.
Yeah.
Where do you learn and who do you learn from? Yes, you're in the businesses. I get the fact you're changing, iterating. I get that part of it. But bigger picture, inspiration about trends, developments, ideas. Where do you learn and who do you learn from?
I have learned to surround myself with just absolutely monsters of people, just wonderful, wonderful people. It's funny, even just a few days ago, I had a text from Tim Grover, and he just was checking in on me, same thing, Ed Milet. Hey, how I surrounded myself with people that do nothing but inspire me and motivate me to be greater. I have chosen to try and be the poorest and the dumbest person in every single room that I put myself in. And so when I'm around those monsters, I always am inspired and I always learn. And I've also learned the very simple principle: you have two ears and one mouth. You should be listening twice as much as you should be talking. And so I do that. I spend a lot of time teaching and mentoring people, but when I'm not teaching and mentoring, I'm quiet and I'm listening and I'm learning and I'm growing, and then I'm integrating all the things that I learn because I'm good at only a few things, and one of those is doing.
When you're listening, you said that it's an important aspect. When you're listening to people, what are you in general listening for?
Things that touch my soul as truth. One of my favorite people in the whole world is Jordan Peterson. And for some reason, I shouldn't say for some reason, through a lot of studying and education, he is so eloquent in how he speaks. And when he says things, they touch me to the core that I know to be truthful, but I couldn't have put them in a better way than he does. So when I listen to people, I have learned to let go completely of being biased. If you truly are educated and mature in this life, you will hold dear this one principle. You may not know everything. You should go into every single situation understanding that there may be a better way to do something. So as soon as you go into a situation and you're closed off thinking you're right, you automatically lose. I
Yes.
have been in a position of religion, a position as a parent, a position as a friend, where I was 100% sure that the way I thought was the correct way. But as soon as I was presented with the correct information through listening and it reached my core as truth, I was quick to change my personal opinion based on the facts presented. Most people are not willing to do that. In fact, in arguments, you usually get more entrenched into your own opinion
Yes.
rather
Very
than
positional.
listening.
Mm.
And I never ever do that. Not anymore. I used to do it when I was really young. I don't do that anymore. And so when I go to these places and I go to these rooms and I listen to these people, if they're saying something that is so far left field from what I've ever believed, I'm automatically open to it. I chew on it, I digest it, and I decide for myself with the facts given whether that's the right or the wrong decision.
I love that. You really are talking through so many inspiring practices that you play out every day in terms of how you think, how you act. Let's flip it to the other side. What's your biggest weakness?
I would say one of my biggest weaknesses is I really struggle with organization, which again, that's why I have 3 assistants.
Hmm.
And I would also say, I don't know if it's a weakness yet, but I am going to label it as such. I put too much faith and expectation into others and their desire to be or do something great. I
Hmm.
oftentimes find myself in positions where I 100% give complete control or the ropes to somebody to just do everything that they want to do in a business or in some type of a deal, knowing all well that they have the capability to do it. And I believe they can do it, and they completely flop because they weren't up to the task. And it definitely it's put me in some bad places. And again, I'm not sure if it's a weakness yet, but I do struggle. I automatically assume that everybody wants to be the best version of themselves and the greatest version of themselves
Hmm.
and just wants to crush and succeed. And oftentimes it's a very, very sad day when it's fallen short of expectations that they don't even give a shit to be there.
Yeah. When you have a setback like that, whether it's a setback of expectation or actually the reality of they've underperformed, how do you recover from it?
Are you familiar with the book The Daily Stoic?
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
Stoicism is something that I've been studying a lot on, and I truly I love it. I just completely love it. The reason I love it so much is because there's one simple underlining principle that it teaches, and that is what's in your control, you control, and what is not, you let go of.
Hmm.
So when I have a setback, I automatically go inward to decide what do I have control of in this situation. And in
Hmm.
this situation and in my control, will I, like an animal, dedicate myself to that which I control and let go of that which I don't, and then accept the things that I cannot control, and then move forward in those things I can. That has always been how I've essentially taken a hit or a failure or any kind of mistake. I have to go back to the drawing board and say, what's in my control? I'm going to savagely go after that, and whatever isn't, I'm letting go of.
Again, it's that discipline and that clarity. I love it. Let's flip it. When you're having your absolutely best day, you're smashing it. You're on fire. Everything's flying. What fuels you? Well, maybe a practice, a mindset. What helps you have your absolutely best day?
I spend a lot of time now on my mornings in just a short period of gratitude. Same thing back to the stoicism that we were talking about. Marcus
Mm.
Aurelius taught that you should think about death on a daily basis. I start every single day thinking about the death of my children, the death of my wife, and the death of myself. And in that, I find the gratitude in that exact day. In the day that I've now been given, I'm grateful for everything. In fact, when you say, what do you do in your best days? Every day is my best day because every day is
Mm.
a new day that I'm allowed to live. And as soon as I get into the mindset of gratitude through thinking about death, I don't have bad days. Now, I definitely have bad minutes and maybe even bad hours, but I don't have bad days anymore. And it's all based around this idea of simple and pure gratitude that I start every single day in. And essentially, knock on wood, I don't have bad days.
That's wonderful. That's such a strength and philosophy to start your day in that way and flip it again to the gratitude. So let me ask you the last question, which is around thinking ahead beyond the 5 years you referred to. What impact are you looking to have on the world around you?
I started Limitless Society a year ago, almost exactly this month a year ago. Um, I had launched 32 companies. I had made millions of dollars. I had been successful. I had ups and downs, made all my mistakes. And I sat on my couch with my wife, and this idea began to grow in me that all I would like to do now is teach people their own capabilities and that they genuinely have zero limitations except that which they give themselves. It's the reason why I
Yes.
started it with the name Limitless Society. And so, my message to the world is, if your eyes could be opened and you could truly see yourself in all your potential and your capabilities, you would laugh at how small you've been playing. You would be
Brilliant.
frustrated at the outcomes you had brought up to this point in your life. So, for me, the rest of my life, I will spend convincing people of their power, capability, and their limitless opportunities that they have to do and be anything, anything that they want in this world.
God, that takes my breath away. That takes my breath away. That is genuinely inspiring. Keaton, you have shared more wisdom in the 30 minutes or so that we've had than I've received in a long time. The thing that's really struck me is you clearly have some very deep philosophical and obviously religious underpinnings to what you do. You have studied and practiced how to run a business and how to run your life. You're not afraid to call it out where you've done something, not as well, and you've learned from it. And you're also you're clear about how you show up with people and the people you want to spend time with. And no wonder your success in lots of ways comes to you because of the energy that you give off and the positive intent that you have. And I take my hat off to you. I'm not wearing one, but if I did, I would take off multiple hats.
Oh,
Keith, it's
thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure spending time with you. So thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. I mean, that was another edition of Lancefield on the Line. I do hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Wow, it's been spectacular. Do check out the other episodes in the series. Sign up to the YouTube channel and to my podcast. Give us a lovely rating. And of course, check out all of Keaton's fantastic work on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, and elsewhere. And Keaton, thank you ever so much again.
Thank you. I really appreciate being on the show.